Why, hello and welcome back to another LOTRO guide. We're going to talk about instances today, my friends. I'm your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield. I hope you're having a wonderful day in Middle-earth. I want to go over quickly about instances for new players. What do you need? What do you need to think about while you're going to do instances in Lord of the Rings Online for people who don't play LOTRO or can just come into the game and you play other MMOs? A lot of times they are called dungeons, right, in other MMOs. So again, instances are dungeons in the Lord of the Rings Online. Not to be confused with a few things in the Lord of the Rings Online, which I'll explain real quick here. There are epic battles, skirmishes, raids, and then instances. Okay, so those are the four different things that you have to think about, but we're going to focus in this video on instances and what do you need. These are the most common thing in LOTRO to do. Again, why are they called instances instead of dungeons? Well, real quick thing, I think it's mainly because it's a story, right? So it's a lore. Lord of the Rings Online really focuses on stories, so it's the same thing as a dungeon in another game, but it's the stories right behind it. So it's very, very cool. So now with that out of the way, let's talk about it. So the first thing you're gonna need to think about is where do you find your instances, okay? So in the world, you'll find locations and they will be a little portal door usually, or something you open, and it'll have like a little bit of an effect where there's like a little eye and it's like, and anyway, when you walk into it, it's gonna open the instance finder. Or if you look right down here, there's a little button right there next to that question mark up here. That one, it's the instance finder. It's gonna bring this up, right? So here's your instance finder. So this is how you're gonna open up when you make a group. I have a whole video, guide video on making a group, so you can go look at that video if you want to know that. So we're gonna talk about just about the instances, okay? And talk about how this works, all right? And I also have a video on the instance finder, but we're gonna specifically talk about instances, all right? So again, there's a couple search things here. I'm gonna go ahead and minimize epic battles. We're gonna leave open instances, and don't worry about, so there is a lot, as you can see. Scaling instances are another thing. I'll explain the difference, and then we'll get rid of the seasonals and skirmishes. So here's all of these instances. There's a lot, right, in the Lord of the Rings Online. Sometimes you will have to learn them, and when you go, you can't just launch them at will. Sometimes you will have to know and the location have been there with your character, okay? So that is really, that's a number one thing you really need to know. You need to have been there for some instances. Others, you'll just know automatically. You won't have to worry about it, right? So now let's talk about this, okay? So regular instances, when you click on them, they will be at a certain level automatically. You will not be able to adjust it. You will not be able to adjust the size of the group. So for example, a fellowship is 6 people, okay? So that is a full group in the Lord of the Rings Online. That's the first thing you need to know about instances. Full group is 6-man, a half group, a 3-man instance is a 3-man, and then there's solo instances, which is 1 person, and then a raid, which is the 24-man, 12 to 24, right, people. And that's where you can have a lot more in a raid, but we're not gonna worry about raids, we're talking about instances. So 1, 3, and 6, those are the sizes we're talking about. So now if you go through these, all right, as you can see, these ones are, so like, for example, these are the locations, right? So Anuminos, which is a place over in Evendim. So if I click on this, as you can see here, it's level 40 to 130, and I can adjust the level slightly on this. So here's what we're gonna talk about, right? So if I wanna say, let's say we're doing an instance and I wanna go to one of the Mirkwood instances in Dol Guldur, right? So these are different stories. So let's say I wanna do the Warg Pens of Dol Guldur, okay? So I'm gonna say launch right here. If I do it without being in a group, it's gonna automatically launch it. This is a scaling instance, right? Which means, scaling means I can play it at the level I am. So as you can see, my level right here is 135 to the top left, right? So as you can see, it scaled it to 135. I get 120% marks, which is another thing you get in instances and in skirmishes, but you don't need to worry about that as much. Tier 1 difficulty, there's up to 3 tier difficulties in most, and again, it's designed for a small fellowship automatically. So I can't change the fact that it's for 3-man. All right, so realistically, I might be able to solo this if I have really good gear, but realistically, this is for a 3-man, and it can only be tier 1 and 2. Okay, so this is where the filters are up here. If you want to launch an instance, okay, once you click it and say launch, and you've done these settings and select it, it's gonna launch this, and you'll say travel, and that'll travel you into the instance, or travel later, and it'll kind of put it down in your little alerts thing in the corner down here, right? You can bring it back up and click this, and it'll still be there. It will expire after a few minutes if no one goes in. You could also cancel if I wanted to redo it and say, no, I want to scale it down to level 130 and I want to do it at tier 2, right? I don't know, launch it. Again, As you can see, since 5 levels lower, it's going to reduce how many marks you get. But now it's tier 2, it's going to actually be a little harder, and it's for 130s, and it's for 3 people, so it's a small fellowship. So no matter what, it's a small fellowship size. You cannot change that. This is grayed out, okay? But we're not going to go in yet. We'll go in once, okay? So I'm going to travel in, right? So again, you travel in. When you travel in, the people are in your fellowship, they're going to travel with you. All right? So now, here is the little effect, by the way, I was talking about when you see a door. See that eye, this effect? You can find those in the world. That's how you get in instances. And when you want to get out, you can also walk to them to leave the instance. And it'll, with the instance finder, bring you back to the same spot you were in the actual world, right outside of the instance. You can also right click on your portrait when you're inside. And again, I can open it back up and travel back in. Like, oh, darn, I didn't mean to walk out, right? Now, another way, if you're farther into the instance, you can right click on your thing and say leave instance, okay? Those are simple things, but things that you need to know, right? It does take a moment. You can be interrupted, so you can't just leave the instance instantly. See what I did there? And then you have also, some instances will give you quests when you go in. If you noticed, I got a bunch of different quests when I was in there. It actually opened quests up I could do in Warg Pens. Another good way to get XP if you want to just grind an instance over and over instead of just questing through the world normally, okay? So now what are things you need to bring into the instances, right? Now you know how to join and make one, right? Again, you can look through here and see all the different places, locations, Osgilianth, right? The road to Erebor, which are a bunch of instances up in Erebor. Warp Pens, sometimes it'll be just updated areas. Like for example, Minas Morgul was an expansion. In their absence, Helagrod is a raid. The Grey Mountains was an expansion, right? A lot of these are just things that'll be there. They're to help organize where they are, right? Which one, so you don't get confused. But again, you'll learn those as you go, which ones you need to do and stuff. But now if you go down here to where it says non-scaling instances versus this, these are the ones that when you click on these, no matter what, when you launch them, if you look up here, they're all grayed out. It's not, no matter what, I'm gonna be able to launch this. Cardu. It's the 6-man instance for tier 1 level 50. It's one of the original end game instances when the game was at level 50 minimum max, right? Now it's 140 is the max level in the game. But again, these are the non-scaling ones you can do, so you'll have to do these either just as low level or, you know, this one. Now here you go, this does have a difference. The lair, it can be a 12 or 24 man. That's a raid, right? Tier 2, it's always tier 2, so it's always hard. And it's level 75, and you can't change it, okay? So again, these are how you change these and launch these instances and raids, right? Again, raids and instances are very similar. Skirmishes, they're a little different. Epic battles are a little different because they have a different objective things than a generic instance or dungeon, okay? That's what the difference is between those two. But what are things that you need to think about when you go into an instance, okay? This is a big one. What do you need to bring with you? So for one, you need to have the decent level gear of what level instance you're going into. And you should be not more than 2 or 3 levels below the level of the instance, realistically. Okay, guys, so, and if you're more than 2 or 3 levels above, you're gonna start not getting a lot of XP, but you might still be able to get your deeds done if you have a deed in the instance, or to kill an objective for a quest. You can still go in there and do it, of course, it would still let you. Now let's talk about though, what are things else you might need besides your stuff, besides your best gear and your items and stuff. Health pots, that's a big one, right? Little health pots you can bring in, like this one right here. This little, it just gives you an instant heal. It's got a 2-minute cooldown. Mana pots, if you're someone who uses a lot of mana, this isn't always needed. You need to know what raid and what instance you'll learn over time which ones are which, but those are good things to have on you. You can always put those on your little quick slot bars down here to just click them real quick. Another one you could think about bringing is there are wound removal pots. Most characters have a wound, fear, poison removal ability. Guardians have a very good one, but you might want to bring some extra strong pots. Make sure they're the right level for the instance, because a wound removal pot will actually have a level on it usually. I do not have any on me right now to show you, but it'll give you a certain one. These ones are special ones that you get for your daily opening things. That's why they have that little tiered thing around them. This green and blue one are generic ones, so these are more better examples right there. But again, you might want to have some kind of restoration, some kind of food that gives you buffs or gives you non-combat or in-combat moral regen. See that? And health right there. So having some rations of some kind. So these are all things you should think about with when you do an instance you're prepared. Have health pots, have mana pots, have wound or poison or disease removal or fear removal. You might need to have hope tokens. There's a hope and dread system in the game. This is a big one. We're going to cover this real fast right now because this is super important for instances or raids. There's a hope and dread system. I have a video on it, but if you go up here to the top right and you hover this little thing right here on the mini map, see way up there where my mouse is right there, and it's going to bring up this little tab here, right? And it says hope. You feel neither hope nor dread. Okay, so hope gives you a bonus to your maximum health and damage. Dread does the opposite. It lowers your maximum health and damage. You have to counter dread with hope. So for example, I have this little hope horn. If I click it, watch my health up here, right? See how it slightly went up and things lit up a little bit, and you can see I have plus 1% morale and 101% damage. So I got 1% of both, right? Some instances are going to have extreme dread where they give you like 5 dread. You're gonna have to have a hope token, and the item is called a hope token, as you'll have to have one of those for your fellowship. And when you're in the 6-man, usually when you use it, it'll give it to everyone in your 6-men that are near you, as long as they're in the instance with you. So make sure they're all there, and that will give you a counter to that. Okay, so that's one thing that's really important. They don't do that as much as the newer instances, so you won't have to worry about it as much. But do remember, hope tokens, health pots, mana pots, any of this disease, poison, fear, all those removal kits if you don't have enough of an ability that can keep up with a certain boss. There's another thing, instances, that is really good. Everyone has a corruption removal ability. For example, I have one called Improved Sting. A lot of times in an instance, there will be an enemy that'll stack up a corruption buff on themselves. So when you're clicked on them, you can see they have this little corruption thing under their name stacking. You're going to want to use your ability on them to remove the corruption so it doesn't stack too high. That's another thing to really think about good in instances. And then let's talk about at the end of the instance. Now the mechanics of the instance, that's a whole other thing. I have a whole playlist called a LOTRO battle, which I'm going to start playing through a lot more instances and raids for you guys, so you can see mechanics of certain raids and instances, so you can help you for later, or just if you're curious to see them, because they're really cool and they have really good storylines sometimes. But another thing is looting. Let's talk about looting real quick. So the end of the instance, your leader has the option to set the loot options when you open a box after killing the boss. There's a couple different ones. I can talk about it a little bit here, so let me show you. Okay, so I have my assistant, being my alt account, my other character, coming on, so I can show you a group thing real quick. We're gonna just hop into an instance, and I want to talk about the looting options, because if you're someone that's new, I don't want you to be gypped if you join some people. And most people are wonderful in this game if they're new, but maybe they won't know how to do it, and they might not realize, and if they do the wrong loot option, you can actually lose loot and stuff. But I'll explain the looting right now in an instance, so we're going to talk about that too, because this is kind of important. So anyway, I'm going to /invite my character name. All right, we're going to have him join the group. All right, so now he's in the group, and now I'm going to launch Warg Pens again. It's already still up, so I'm going to say travel to Warg Pens. I'm going to let him travel in too. All right, so here we are, I'm in, and you'll see there's my other character right there who's in the group. Now there's 2 of us, right? So here's a couple things that you need to know about with instances. There's a couple helpful things. For one, you can right click on your portrait as the leader. So if you're the leader, there's a few things under fellowship options. See how it opened another thing up here? There is mark target. So whatever you're selected on, again, left clicked on, right? This one. You can also right click them, go to fellowship, and also say, add fellowship tracker for that person. This is a very interesting, very cool thing. So for example, as my character, I'm gonna do it for me. I'm gonna right click myself. I'm gonna go fellowship, and I'm gonna say add fellowship assist target. See this window that pops up right here? This is usually mostly used in raids, this option right here. But what happens is there's me on the left. So you can click on me and it will select me. But if I'm selected on this target over here, if Zollin clicks on me, he can now see that target. Okay, so for example, let me just show you here real quick. I will flip it around for you. All right, so let's see, boop, there we go. So now you can see Zollin's view. So as you can see, his assist window is right up here. So Zollin's not clicked on anything. But if Zollin clicks on this warg and he's attacking that warg, now my character can go, oh, like the other character, oh, Zollin's attacking that. I left click on that, boom, now I'm targeting the right target. This is really important, because aggro is a thing in this game, and I have a whole guide video on aggro and stuff. You can go check that out, but this is about instances, right? This video. I need to target the same target the tank is targeting, because if I start shooting as a damage dealer, like a hunter, some other target, those targets are going to come from me, because the tank isn't hitting those and keeping the aggro or the attention on them, right? So you want to be targeting the same target. So there we go. As a target assistant window huge. Okay, that's a big thing. All right, so let's go back to Zollin here. Now another one is I can mark a target. So if I'm left clicked on that, I could write fellowship target, and I could give him the death sign. So a little thing's gonna pop up over his head. Oh, I'm attacking him now. Oopsie daisy. That is all right. We'll have a different target in a moment. Let me just get rid of this guy, get him out of our way for a second. You noticed when I pulled that guy, it pulled the other one behind him. In instances, aggro ranges are a little different sometimes than regular in the field on the world. A lot of times groups of units aggro together in instances. So that's a really good learning thing actually to show you guys real quick. So if you notice, I hit that guy and it pulled the guy way over the wall too. Normally the range would have, the other guy would have been back there so he wouldn't have carried, right? So that is a huge one to think about, all right? That's a huge thing. So now the next thing, let's go over here. I want to show you how to target. I'll just mark a target on, I can mark a target on a friendly unit too. So again, I'm gonna go fellowship, add fellowship, target marker, shield. So now there's a shield over him. So now we can see where Zollin is on the field when he runs around, right? It's a little easier to keep track, right? Another huge one, which is in my combat video, is the tab button. If you need to pick the closest target, just tab and it'll find the closest target. And if you tap tab over and over, it'll rotate through the closest targets. See how it's rotating through those three targets right there? Do. See what I'm doing that? Okay, so that's another huge one right there. But now let's talk about looting, right? I was gonna tell you guys about looting. So let's finish up the video with this instance video. Please leave comments or questions if you have other things that you wanna know. But let's talk about looting. So as the leader, if I go up here and say loot quality, don't worry about that one as much. Here we go, loot roll. There's free for all, which means everyone will just loot everything. When a chest opens, if it's everyone loots everything, there is a lot of the new instances have chests that will allow you to basically, everyone gets something out of it, and then everyone gets a certain amount of money, it just splits it. And then, but a lot of instances, the items will bind to your character when you pick them up out of the box. So what you do as a leader is you can put it on round robin, which is need, greed, or pass, right? Free for all with round robin. So the difference between free for all is just everything will drop and everyone can loot whatever they want out of the chest. Free for all with need, greed, pass means everyone can loot on it, but they give a button will come up for each item. A bunch of items will come on the screen and you could say need, greed, or pass, right? And then there is round robin, need, greed, or pass. They're kind of similar in that way. Don't worry about that. Then there's roll, pass, right? Round robin, which basically means everyone just can roll on it if they want to, and it just rolls a random number, and whoever wins the roll on that item gets the item. It goes in their inventory. Okay, so that's another one. Then there's round robin with master looter and free for all master looter. Basically what these are is the main leader has the option to wait for everybody. He holds on all the items, doesn't bind to him yet, and what happens is you can all roll. So basically what you do is you'll actually bring up your general chat and the leader will say, okay, everybody roll, and you type /roll. And what's gonna happen is it'll do, out of 100, it'll do like a D&D thing, roll. I got an 82, right? And then let's say, you know, Zollin would roll. Again, it's gonna be me, but I'm gonna roll again. I got a 14. Oh, well, Zollin wins. So then he would assign the item to Zollin, right? And again, if he's a good leader, if it's an item that's only for a hunter, and that guy who's there has a hunter, and the guardian wants a hunter item that can only be used on a hunter, usually you're gonna give it to the hunter in the group. Like, that's just the kind thing to do, right? So again, looting, that's important. So there's basically free for all, there's need, greed, pass, there's rolling, where you just all roll or pass on an item, and then there's the master looter, which is basically you all will have to wait as the leader kind of delegates the items. So those are the different kinds of rolling things. So you just need to know that for instances. It's really important and stuff. Again, because I don't want you to get gypped, but I don't think anyone would. Most people are nice in this game. Again, then when you leave, you just say leave instance, boom, and leave, right? If you're not the main leader, you could also just leave the group, fellowship, leave, and you're gonna automatically be kicked within 12 seconds, or you can just say leave now. It's just gonna kick you out of the instance, right? So they don't allow you to stay in there. So the leader's one has a little bit of special abilities when he starts the instance. So that's what you need to know with that. We'll pop back over to Zollin here. So hopefully that helped you out a little bit for instances. So I just wanted to kind of cover some things. What do you need? How do you start them? How do you find them? That kind of thing. Again, you'll find them around the world. Use the instance finder. It's a good way to learn about stuff and learn about things. And then remember, there are some that are locked levels, some that you can adjust the level. It's all really good to know. What you need to bring, looting, all that kind of stuff, how to leave, how targeting systems work. Hopefully that helped you guys out. We did that in less than 20 minutes. So If it did, please do like and subscribe. It helps out the channel if I earned it. And thank you to my Patreons. You guys are the best. I can find the picture. There it is. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. I'm your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield, as always. Again, welcome to Voice of the Rings. If you are a new subscriber, subscribe button's right there. It is free if I earned it. And the next episode for guides will be up there, and LOTRO Tell Me My Content's over there. So check them all out, and I'll see you in the next episode of Voice of the Rings, and I hope that helps you out in instances in Lord of the Rings. See you in the next episode of Voice of the Rings.